Hello and welcome to this pattern recognition video featuring puzzles that come from intermediate games level 12 or rated 1200 to 1800. I'll try and do at least 10 puzzles. Now, I did have some people say the puzzles were too easy in the past, but I want to throw in at least some videos with easier puzzles. That way, if any beginners or intermediates are watching this and wanting to try the puzzles out, that they're not all too difficult for them. So before I continue, what is pattern recognition? If you're new to that, basically you want to solve a set of puzzles and you go over them more than once. That way you don't just solve them and forget about them. The idea is that the multiple times that you go through the puzzles and solve them, up to 7 times, it'll help reinforce the patterns and tactics into your long-term memory, and you'll hopefully be able to remember those and use them in your actual games. So, how do you begin here? Well, you want to see what move was just played. I believe a pawn captured here. So, you think, well, should I just capture that pawn back? But we're looking for some type of winning move or tactic, something that'll help us get a win. So after you look at the move that was just played, you might want to count up the material and see what's happening as far as piece count. We have, 6 pawns. Our opponent has 7. So we're down a pawn now after they just captured one. The rest of the material is pretty even. 2 minor pieces, 2 rooks and queens. So we're looking for a tactic. And when you're trying to find the winning move, you want to look for checks, captures, and threats in that order. Checks first because they're the most forcing. And hopefully that will give you the clue you need to find the winning move. Pause at any time if you need to think longer. If you've already found the winning move and you're telling me to shut up and move on, well, then I'll go ahead and do that. So let's see here. If we look at checks, we have this move here, forking the king with a check and also the rook. So the king, remember, once you move with a check, there are 3 options or less. Capture the attacker, block, or run. And if none of those can be accomplished, it's a checkmate. But if we put our queen here, there's no way to capture. The only way to block would be for the rook move. The king can run, of course, but then we'll be able to pick off the rook. So check, and then we grab this rook here. And so now there is this threat right here of the battery picking that up with a check. And then, it could be very serious. They could take that, then maybe go after this and try and mate the black king. So we need to defend that. And what's the best way to do that? Well, we don't want to move the knight, or we just have a capture with check, and then they could capture this. It looks pretty bad. So we want to probably keep that knight there to block, and we just need to defend it. And it looks like, what's the best way to do that? Just bring the rook up here to help defend. That's what I'm thinking. So we do that. Okay, now our queen is under attack, but it looks like we can just take their knight now. So that's probably the way to go. One issue could be this move as well. Going here, and then if you have 3 attackers on that knight, so if we take, once again, you have this capture, and then the possibility of going there, chasing that king around, maybe getting a mate. So I think we should capture there, unless there's something better. Before we do that move, let me look at something. if we're ahead in material, should we be trying to trade down? Do we go there? Um, I don't know if we want to do that. Huh. I mean, the obvious move is just to take that, and then we're really up material. All right. Well, I hope you did well on that first puzzle rated 1730. Well, it's from a 1730 game, so remember that if you think these are too easy, they if you think they're lower rated than what the actual rating says, it's probably because it was played by somebody at that level. So, let's take a look at this next problem and see what is happening here. The rook just stepped over because now if this pawn were to capture, they could just take our rook, which is unprotected, and it's with check. So that could be dangerous. So what do we do here? Well, we could follow our system of counting up the material. We have 5 pawns. Our opponent has 1 more pawn than us. So they're ahead by 1 pawn. But we only have a rook, or excuse me, a knight for their rook. So we're down in material. We need to do something. If we look at checks first, that probably doesn't do anything. They just capture that pawn. We could try and move this knight here, forking the king and the rook. So that looks like that could be a good idea. So maybe we try that. And also, if we go here, if the king runs into the corner, we could even capture with check. The king would have to recapture. We could go after this rook, something like that. So, check. What are the options? Remember, when a king is being put in check, there are usually 3 options or less: block, capture, or run. Now, a knight cannot be blocked because it jumps over everything. So, that leaves the king either running here or into the corner. And that's the only option because we don't have anything that can, well, we have the queen that could capture, but that's probably no good, giving up your queen for that knight. So if we go here, we could take that. But anyway, I'm going to start it off. That way we don't drag this out too far. Okay, so they do that anyway. Huh. So now they capture here. We're pretty much forced to run. So they get behind the passed pawn, which is usually a good strategy. But now what? What do we do next? Well, do we have any checks? Do we have any captures or threats? Okay, the only check is that we develop or push the pawn up, promote it to a queen or whatever, rook, probably a queen. It'll just be captured. So what else can we do? Well, we could go here, attacking their rook, and then they have to do something about that. So we attack the rook. There's also a threat of once that rook moves, if we go here, the king would be in check. probably wouldn't want to go into the corner. If he moves that way, we can check. He would have to go here. Oh, and then we could, well, let's get on with it here, see what the opponent does. Well, that's interesting. Now, probably should just take that. Okay. That was an interesting continuation. All right, let's keep this moving along. That way I don't drag the video out, for hours and hours. Okay. What do we have here? The knight has just jumped forward. What is the threat? Well, what did that do? Maybe it prevents this pawn from pushing forward here, or discourages that. Also there's the option of moving the knight up here and attacking our knight. So, checks, captures, and threats. Do we have any? But before we look at that, let's count up the material. We have 4 pawns. Our opponent has 2 more pawns than we do. And they have a bishop as well. Okay, so we need to do something here. All right. Do we have any checks? Yes, we do. And maybe that's the way to go. If we check with our knight, the king has to move on to this H file. We could attack. If he captures, we swing the other rook in here for a mate. All right, so this is a great little pattern to know. And there's no way to stop that. All right, on to puzzle number 4. Okay, what did we have? A bishop capture here. So now what? Material. We have 4 pawns. Our opponent has 5. We're down a bishop and a rook. So we are just way below, way down on material. So we need to do something here. Okay, checks. Checks, captures, and threats. We have that. Delivering a check. If they capture, our queen could capture. The king would be forced to go here. Then what? Do we do something like that? If they take... Oh, wow. We take... If the king takes, we go back to where the queen started and deliver a checkmate, I believe. Let's take a look at that one more time just to double check. So if we go there... Now remember, when a king is being checked, he doesn't have to recapture, but I don't know, that would be the best move, I think. Or maybe not, because if he captures, we capture, the king is forced to go here. Then check, take, king takes, and then we deliver the mate. All right. All right, so this is an awesome pattern that you definitely should know. Remember, whenever you have the queen attacking from one of the 4 corners, as long as it's protected, of course, and the king can't just take it. Well, when you have that, the queen is covering both sides here and the diagonal through the middle. The only thing not being covered are these 2 squares, and unfortunately for black, both pawns are preventing the king from moving there, and so we have a mate. So that's a great little pattern to know there. All right, on to puzzle number 5. We're almost halfway done. The queen has just captured a pawn, I believe, here. So if we count up the material, we have 6 pawns. Our opponent has the same number. We both have the bishop pair and a knight, 2 rooks and a queen. So material is even. We're looking for some type of winning move here. Do we have any checks? Well, the only check would be to go here, forking the king and the queen. So the pawn would pretty much be forced to capture. But do we have a follow-up after that? So don't just check because you can. See if there's a good follow-up to your check. And a lot of times the threat of the check hanging over your opponent's head, and they're always having to watch that move after move, sometimes that can cause your opponent some problems, more than actually checking them. All right. Unless the check leads to a mate, then you definitely want to do that. All right. What do we have here? If we go there and they just take our knight, did that open anything up? We could deliver a check. No, the bishop would be covering that. So, oh, there is a threat. Okay, this is a great example, good pattern here. All right, hopefully you found it more quickly than I did. Whenever you're looking for these checks, captures, and threats, well, you want to look at the checks first because they are just the most forcing moves. And if you don't have any good checks, then you're looking for captures. Is there anything just sitting there where you're attacking it and you can just pick up a free pawn or a piece? Then you might want to consider that. If you don't have anything that can immediately be captured, look for threats. And you also want to look for unprotected pieces like this queen. So hopefully that gave you a hint enough to figure out what you should do. Well, let's start with that knight move. If we go there, check. Okay, we're forking the king and the queen. So they pretty much have to take our knight. Well, now that opens up this diagonal for the bishop to deliver a check to the king and a discovered attack on the unprotected queen. So check, check, and we grab the queen. So we gave up 2 minor pieces in exchange for the queen, and that should be enough to win here. All right, halfway done, on to puzzle number 6. And what do we have here? The rook moved up here, kind of lining up on our king. Oh, along with this rook as well. So that's probably why they moved the rook here. If we look at the material count, we have 3 pawns. So does our opponent. We both have 2 rooks, queen, and a minor piece. All right, and the bishop is going to be a little bit stronger with pawns on both sides of the board than the knight, since the knight is slower. All right, checks, captures, and threats. Do we have any checks? Yes, we do have a check, and that should be enough to get the win, it looks like. So pause if you need to. If not, here we go. Hopefully you found this move, attacking with check. Remember, when the king is being checked, he can capture, block, or run. So here he can only, capture or run. If he takes the rook, well then we can check here. King will have to move, and then our queen comes in and delivers the mate. If we go here and he runs, well, then we can capture the pawn with check. The king would have to move here, and then our other rook could deliver the mate. So he'll probably take our rook, which he does. Now we have check and mate by the queen. All right, I hope you're doing well on these puzzles. Remember to solve puzzles regularly, and especially for the beginners and intermediates out there. Hopefully that'll help improve your game. And let me know in the comments what you think. If you want to see something specific in the future, put a request in the comment section, and I try to respond to all the comments, and I also try to do the requests. So what do we have here? A bishop. Did it capture something? But anyway, if we look at the material, we have 4 pawns versus 5. We are down a knight and 2 rooks. Oh, wow. So we need to do something in a hurry here. All right. Well, looks like we can use that little pattern that I mentioned earlier with a queen check. So if we look at checks first, we do have this move, jumping to one of the corner squares that are around the king. And if we move our queen here, it will attack through the diagonal. It will attack on this side. And it can't attack all the way through here because of this pawn. But this pawn does that job of preventing the king from running. So we go here. The only squares that are not covered by the queen are here and here. So the king would have to move there. And now it looks like we can use our bishop to deliver a check and mate. They can block. So we're going to go here. King moves up. We check. They could block with the rook and the pawn, but eventually we'll deliver mate with our bishop. So check, check, and mate. All right, on to puzzle number 8. Okay, we check the king with our rook, so it steps forward here. Now what? We count up the material. We have 4 pawns. Our opponent has 4. We have queen and rook versus queen and rook, but our opponent has this extra bishop. So that is not good for us. But thankfully, there is a dark squared weakness around the king because their bishop is gone. So if we look at checks first, hopefully that'll give you the answer. Pause if you have to, try and figure it out. Looks like we can go here. Well, there is one option. Okay, remember, when we check the king, capture, block, or run, the checking piece, he can't capture us. If he tries to run here, then we'll just deliver a mate with our queen here. So his best option may be to block and attack our queen with this pawn. And how do we follow up there? Well, that does allow us to take the bishop. So is that enough to win? All right, so check, block, we take here. Now we have a threat of going here and delivering a mate. So the opponent would probably have to account for that, trying to block here. But then we can use our rook and try and get an attack going, perhaps. All right, so check. We take. Okay, they deliver a check on us. So our only option, we don't want to block. We have to run up here. So that move kind of leaves us out in the open. But I think we'll be able to defend enough. And our only option, of course, is to grab there, but I think if the queen starts attacking us, we can move until we can, get a defense in. And we're just ahead in material. All right, on to puzzle number 9. Bishop has just moved here, forking both of our rooks. So that looks kind of dangerous for us. If we count up the material, what do we have here? 3 pawns. Our opponent has double that number. Okay. We both have 2 bishops. But we are down a rook for a queen here as well. So we need to do something. We do have a lot of material kind of lined up. Well, this bishop is blocked by that pawn, but we have this possible attack here. So maybe that will work for us. So we could go here with check if we look at checks first. If we do that, the king could go here or here. And if he goes here, well, then we could just go there, forking the king and the bishop, and be able to pick that bishop off. But let's, dig a little bit deeper. Is that going to be enough? If we grab a pawn, the material will be evened up, I believe. Oh no, we're still down quite a bit because of there are 3 extra pawns. But it looks like we want to start off here. Now, what do we do? If he goes into this corner, we have a discovered attack. So then what do we do? All right, so what do you think here? This is a good threat, and that's probably the first move we need to make. We capture here. There are 2 options. They can't block. They can't capture the checking piece. They can only run, after we go here, into the corner. If they do that, how do we take advantage? Do we go here with a discovered attack on the queen? If the king moves, we grab the queen. They could capture, but then we could capture here next. So most likely, once we play this move, they'll go here. But then the issue is maybe another check. Driving the king. All right, so let's just do that. This looks like it's winning. We go there. Now we can go here. Oh, and we might get that queen no matter what we do. I mean, we could just go here, then grab the queen, and then we can pick this off. So, do we have a mate threat, though? Probably going there is best. Okay, now we can grab the queen with check, which that's great because he has to deal with that, and then that gives us time to pick off the bishop, either one of them. All right, on to the final puzzle, number 10. Queen has just captured a pawn here. Now it's attacking our queen. Let's count up the material and see if we're ahead or behind. We have 4 pawns. Our opponent has 3. Oh, they do have an extra rook, though. Okay, so we need to do something in a hurry here. Well, let's look for the checks. our queen. We could move the queen here or here or here, and it would be captured. So not good. Queen could move here, it would be captured. Here it would be captured. Here if we took, it would be captured. And we're behind material. We don't want to simplify and trade down more material. So we move the queen here. He could just block. So maybe we need to attack with the rook. Now that move could be the right one because we're attacking the king. He has to keep guarding this queen, so his only move, he can't run away because we'll just take the queen. So check pretty much has to go here. Now what? Oh, now we can deliver a check, forking the king and queen. So that looks pretty good. Check, and then the fork. Now, what do? Do we just go after the rook here and then we're targeting that? Do we have something even better? I mean, if we check, what can he do? Well, he can't go along this line or this line. He'll have to move back towards the center. So, I don't know. Maybe we just grab that. So now we're just up by, what, one pawn, and his king is way out in the open. We can start attacking. All right. Well, that was 10 puzzles. I hope you did well on those. Remember to solve puzzles regularly to try and improve your chess. Now, I did have a couple comments where somebody said, well, when I solve these puzzles, I just don't see as much because you're just jumping into a random position. So you can also just try and play through games, especially games of great masters. That's another way to improve your chess. But the more you solve these puzzles, the more the patterns will become familiar and you'll be able to see more as you do this more regularly. You'll start picking up more tactics and hopefully it'll help you. Anyway, feel free to leave comments. Like and subscribe to support the channel if you haven't already. Thank you for watching and have a super chess day.